Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Rockwood number 94L-606. This is one of my favorite pieces of hardware from Rockwood, only because it just says quality. You can see on the back side, that's all brass construction. Everything is brass here, certainly except the threaded bolts that are there. Well, those are probably stainless, because that is not magnetic. Okay, 94L, it's a flush pole is what it is. It's one of their handful of different flush poles, and the flush poles generally diverge from each other just really in terms of size, dimensional properties. The -606 means three things. It means that it's made of solid brass, means that it is in a satin brass finish, and then finally it means that it has a clear lacquer coat on it. This will come with typical through bolts. You're going to get those coupling nuts. You're going to get the stove bolts and then the finish washers here that will go through the door, and that's common to have that on a pole like this. It's going to take a lot of use, a lot of pulling naturally, and you need to through bolt it through the door because there's really no other way to attach it short of having yourself a model that has surface mount countersunk holes and then surface mounted screws. There is a link below this video to the product brochure. Let's take a stab at that. So that product brochure will show you different flush poles is the bottom line. The 94L with these lugs, the 94P, that's going to be a surface mount model. You can do a back-to-back set from Rockwood 94P, 94L, obviously if you're doing a sliding door. Then you get into your smaller versions, your 95A, 95B. Those are for pocket residential doors. A radius, I should say a round version, the 95R. And then a specialty pole that you can have in a door with a deadbolt prep or a cylinder prep, not really a deadbolt. You would see that in a fiberglass door on a school where you've got an exit device on the inside and a pole handle on the exterior. But that application would probably call for one to be specifically rated as handicap compliant, so be sure that you're okay with the code regarding that. Okay, this model you can order with Torx screws as well. You're just going to get a Phillips drive on the inside. It can be ordered with Torx and is intended for 1 3/4 doors. If you have need for a unit for a different thickness of door, we have to change the bolt size, so be sure to include that in the comment field at the time of order. Now, moving on, there are several dimensions posted below this video along with material that we've already discussed. Let's move to the product template and take a look at that. What it gives you really are overall dimensional properties. It will give you the rough opening requirements for your mortise, and it's a very common, very typical sort of item. They don't tell you the back set to use from the edge of the door. That's of course at your discretion. You know, I might, want to do a inspection of the door construction to make sure that I'm not chopping into any of the solid wood style if it's a wood door, assuming. I would probably want to mimic a typical 2 3/4 back set sort of scenario. You'll want to be sure that it's not going to conflict with any hardware once you mortise it. Maybe a stop on a frame or some other hardware that would be otherwise installed, such as an edge pole. You don't want to have to get an edge pole in conflict with this either. Okay. Now, the mortise. Rockwood is calling out for a 2 13/16 wide mortise, and that would make sense. This body is only about 2 9/16 or 2 5/8. The height of the mortise prep is 3 3/4 they want, and you're in real good shape there. And then you'll see where they want you to drill through the door at those two locations, top and bottom, to run the bolts through. So you'll need to be very careful when you're mortising or drilling for that, because you won't have a lot of room left over of the trim should your bit get away from you a little bit. In that lower left-hand corner, mortise outline shows exactly how that's going to happen. Mortising for this, prepping for this is very simple. A router is the way to go. I've mortised for these countless times, and a plunge router with a 1/2 inch drill bit, a 1/2 inch router bit And that's why it took so long that one time I was using a drill bit. A template that's been manufactured, giving you the automatic dimension of back set. Maybe you've got an unusual one where it will run to the bottom of the door so that you know your bottom of door to center line height is always consistent. You know, if you're going to do it by hand, that would be dreadful as far as I'm concerned. Dreadful. But, you know, where there's a will, there's a way. But a router would be the way that you'd want to go with this sort of piece of hardware. The idea with the router is you're going to get a very clean, fast, and efficient cut, but you're going to be able to repeat that quickly and easily over the time. If you're doing a handful of these, gosh, any more than 2, I would stop and make the router, the template for that sort of prep. And I might be tempted to give my router, what I would want to do would be give my router the 2 locations for my template, I should say, for where you have to drill the 1/2-inch hole down through the door. I would want to set that up so that I was automatically marking those as well. You might even get real fancy and drill that for the diameter of your collet so that you could take your plunge router and just push it down through the hole to create that sort of prep, even though bottom cutting with a router is not the proper way or the easy way to do that. Plus, you won't be able to mark the outside of the door. You might want to first pre-drill that hole and then get down with it and then finish off the other side. However you'll go about doing it is how you go about doing it. Now, the name Rockwood is synonymous with all things trim and auxiliary hardware, and I am just always, I'm 99% of the time pleased with what I see from Rockwood. And this 94L and a 606 finish is an example of that. There is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all the Rockwood products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, along with a link to the full product catalog. The name Rockwood is synonymous with trim and auxiliary hardware, and you will experience, when using it, an industry-wide level of comfort, familiarity with it. If you have any questions on the Rockwood 94L, flush pole and a 626 finish, for use on sliding and swinging doors. I know a lot of people that will use these with pivot hardware on swinging doors. I did want to tell you the dimension, the thickness of the face of the item. That's 1.33 inch, so basically 1/8 of an inch material thickness. Again, any questions on the Rockwood 94L and a 606 finish or any other Rockwood product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you very much.